Did anything change after Cambridge Analytica scandal?
Well, for me, a lot of things changed. I'm now involved in a lot of different investigations, and I've had to go and testify, at the United States Congress, at the British Parliament, at the European Parliament. For me, lots of stuff changed. There's now a lot of investigations. I think in terms of, have companies like Facebook changed? Not really. I mean, we even saw last week with the reporting in the New York Times that, after the story came out, the first thing that Facebook did is, hire a PR campaign to try to, convince senators to not do anything. So there's a long way to go. But for me, I'm hopeful because we've now started a real conversation about, how should we respect people's privacy, people's data, and also really starting to understand that data and information really has an impact on people and our democracy. And so I think that's really important, at least to start that conversation, and from there start to examine what kinds of rules should be put in place to make sure that we no longer have a Wild West, in social media companies.
Because this is what we have now, a Wild West in the social media zone.
Well, completely. I mean, you look at, this is an industry that, does not have a regulator. This is an industry that, has, the least amount of rules, and for me, is completely disproportionate to its size and impact on people, right? When you think about it, how often do you go onto the internet and use Google or use Facebook or use Instagram or Twitter or what have you, like WhatsApp apps on your phone? How often do you check your phone? It's all the time. And so these are technologies that are now very much integrated in people's day-to-day lives, where they're checking their phones several times an hour throughout the entire day. And so for me, that, given that these are things that are literally becoming parts of people's lives in such an intimate way, that there should be a minimum set of standards put in place to make sure that it's safe.
Companies still need data. They still need to do data analytics. How should they do it to still be ethical?
Personal data, it powers a lot of, really good, products and technologies. And I would include social media in that, there's a lot of good things about social media. But fundamentally, we have to respect, that people are in charge, that their consent needs to be, one of the most fundamental things about any kind of product, right? If you don't get people's consent, you shouldn't be doing it. And two, respecting when even if you have gotten their consent, that the features and things that you're building are to be reasonably expected by the person. They're not going to be surprised by it, and that what you're building is proportionate, to the risk and the benefit of those users. And then thirdly, that we need to be respecting people's agency, and preventing disinformation, which currently is rampant online, from affecting people's literal perception of reality. And so respecting people's agency and respecting their privacy, I think, absolutely needs to be the heart of any kind of product and any kind of innovation. And you can innovate and respect people. And frankly, I'd say, if you are building a piece of technology where you cannot respect people's privacy and their agency, then that is not a piece of technology that should be built, full stop. So I think absolutely we need a code of ethics for data scientists and software engineers, and professional conduct standards, just in the same way that engineers that build bridges or buildings also have to follow sets of rules. Lawyers, teachers, doctors, accountants, nurses, you name it, these are all regulated professions. And given that people working in software engineering are building things that literally touch people's lives on a minute-by-minute basis, at minimum, they should have to consider the potential harm that product might have. But on the other side, yeah, I do think that we do need some form of regulator, beyond just codes of ethics and professional conduct standards that do investigate these firms and make sure that they behave in an appropriate way in the marketplace. So yeah, we need both.
We have GDPR here in Europe. Do you think it works?
Well, does it? I mean, we've only had it for a couple months, so does it work? Is sort of, it's a bit of an unfair question because we haven't yet seen it. We haven't had enough time to sort of observe it yet. But GDPR doesn't, go beyond data protection. So a lot of the problems that we're starting to see aren't just data protection related or privacy related. It's more broadly about what kinds of informational environments are we creating for people in society also, not just individuals, but society also. And, what should the appropriate limits be when it comes to not just privacy or data protection, but like people's agency itself. So there needs to be a broader conversation about that. And I think there still needs to be a different set of rules also, in addition to the GDPR.
The thing that we need to start discussing is how much influence should we allow an algorithm to have on a person's life? Particularly when we think, what happens, people are just trying to put Alexa in their homes, right? Or Google Home, we're at the early sort of nascent stages of integrating AI into our physical space. But what happens in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, where our environments start thinking about us and for us, right? Not just in the online space, but in the temporal space. And that is a question that's really important for us to think about now, because it's not a privacy issue, it's not a data protection issue. It's an issue of what does it mean to be a human when, for the first time, in the history of our species, we create environments that literally think about us. We create something that watches us, that knows about us, that seeks to influence us, that corrects our behavior, that penalizes our behavior based on a set of rules that somebody comes up with. And that feels quite divine in a sense, right?